Hello and welcome to our first Member Spotlight video. Member Spotlight shines a light on the incredible Agri-TechE member community, their expertise and the technology they are developing. This month, I'm delighted to welcome Alex Kowalski and Andrew Sprossen from SEAD Artists. Alex and Andrew, welcome to Member Spotlight and thank you for joining me today. To kick us off, can you introduce SEAD Artists and yourselves, please?
My name is Alex Kowalski from a company called Skypointe Limited, and my background is previously in commercial aviation, got into drones 10 years ago and working in agriculture now for the last 2 years. SEAD Artists itself, it is not an organisation, it is a collaborative of like-minded people within the drone space that are looking to support agricultural innovation through the use of technology and drones. But that's a summary of me. I'll hand over to Andy.
Cheers, Alex. I'm Andy, member of SEAD Artists, and my company is called Autospray Systems. And what we are trying to do is try and introduce agricultural drone operations to the UK. And my background is nearly 10 years now in in commercial drone operations. Recently specialising in heavy lift operations with, our drone is 120 kilos in weight. My main focus is navigating the regulations within the drone permissions or the CAA regulations, but equally and even more so now, health and safety executive regulations with regards to aerial pesticide spraying.
Fantastic. Thanks both. I mean, this is speaking to you today is a great place to start, really, because drones are synonymous with agri-tech. I think if you ever imagine if you asked AI to draw you a picture of agri-tech, I'm almost certain there'd be a drone in there. But as we know, and those in the community know, regulation has, to a greater or lesser extent, held back kind of the actual technological innovation that you guys are developing. Are you able to outline some of the issues around regulation that drone use in agriculture has faced, just to kick us off, please?
I'm sure Alex has got a lot to say in terms of some of the technological elements, but our opinion is we're the only ones who started to challenge the regulator. There was no law to prevent drone spraying with a drone. It's just no one had applied to the CAA to do it before. Same with agricultural drone spraying. Yes, you can't apply a product unless the application method is listed on the label. But there are processes in place, and for us, regulation's not the issue. It's maybe the willpower for people to get out there and put your mind to it and make those applications, and that's what we're spearheading.
Yeah, there are three main parts here about where regulations have held back. There's three things to answer. First of all, where am I? So where is the drone that I'm operating myself? So we need to have confidence in that. What is the risk to people on the ground? Because there's no risk to people in the sky anymore to a degree. So where is everybody on the ground? So what we call the ground risk. And then where is everybody else? I'm now no longer flying in a plane that I can see everybody at altitude. So I now need to know in a different manner where everyone else is in the sky. So those are kind of mean the three main aspects. Where am I? Where's everybody else? And what is the risk to people on the ground? And that's been the kind of the regulations today that have really blocked progress. Hence, the only way people have been able to fly drones so far have been what they call visual line of sight, or VLOS, which a lot of farmers and other people have done. I.e., if I can see the drone, then I can operate it. But I can't go any further than that, which has meant traditionally you have been constrained from a particular drone flight no further than 500 meters from the position where you take off. Which obviously, if you're talking thousands of hectares, is a very limited circumstance.
There's a lot of discussion, Alex, around beyond visual line of sight. Where do we currently stand with beyond visual line of sight approval for agricultural use of drones, and how has SEAD Artists been working towards gaining that in instances?
Sure, I'll address it to begin with. So from a regulatory perspective, the Civil Aviation Authority, the CA, has been looking at putting forward proposals to look at BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, in lots of different areas. For example, medical drone deliveries, package deliveries, the likes of Amazon, where there's been news headlines on. And one particular development they've done in the last 12 months is saying, look, there is a piece of airspace that's so low, so close to the ground, maybe 50 feet in height, about 15 meters or so. What is the likelihood of any person flying a plane at that low altitude? Even military fast jets don't fly that low, nor do police helicopters. So it is almost improbable that anything is going to be found at that height. They call it an atypical air environment. And so they announced a policy concept late last year. And we've taken that policy concept and made a safety argument to the regulator that the type of spraying that Andy does fits within that kind of airspace at low altitude. And so that essentially has been the big development from a regulatory perspective. I'll let Andy fill on some of the technical parts, but it means that as of today, as we speak here, we are the only operator, or Andy is from Autospray Systems, the only operator that can fly beyond visual line of sight without any trials, without any restrictions on the type of activity, which means we've pretty much unlocked BVLOS and are the first people to do so in the United Kingdom. I don't know if, Andy, you want to talk a little bit around kind of what that means from an Autospray perspective and the heights that you can fly at as well.
Like I say, it's a bit of a strange concept to a lot of people, particularly maybe in the farming industry. But as Alex said, you fly a drone where you can see it, and we're going to fly it where we can't see it. And what that means for the agricultural sector is the way we work is going to be fundamentally changed and rewritten. Yes, we still have to fill the drone, and we still have to load it with seed or product or chemical, whatever it might be. But we're now not limited in terms of keeping the drone visually. We might fly the same distances in the same field, but we don't need to watch it anymore. And that increases our efficiency significantly. We've gone from a 2-person operation down to 1, for example. And to touch on the other elements, we don't have any restriction in distance. We are location based, so we need to demonstrate we can operate in a particular area safely. But once we've got that location approved with the CAA, which is a 4 to 6 week process, because we've got an agreed template to do that, we can operate there commercially as often as we require to, at whatever distance we see is required and obviously safe. But the main issue is this is commercially driven. This isn't a testing evaluation phase. This isn't going away. This isn't funded by a big venture capitalist or some sort of government sort of body per se. This is strictly, business, and we're going to use it to do all manner of things, from peatland restoration to seeding new forests, and then we're going to move into pesticides. Once we get some trial permits, we'll be able to apply those beyond visual line of sight, which is a whole new area for the HSE to understand yet. But yeah, exciting stuff.
I mean, where do you see initially these products in aerial application of pesticides? What situations do you see these being used? You mentioned things like peatland and things where conventional machinery may be difficult to travel, but looking a bit further and broader, the applications of that, Andy, in what situations do you immediately see, once you get these approvals, you being called out to apply them?
I'll just give it a touch of context, just so the wider community can get their heads around it. But effectively, we've had to create drift data or data that demonstrates and quantifies, if you spray something, how far does it go? And it's a vital part of the puzzle, because as a grower, I'm sure you'd want to know, if you spray something, is it going to affect a neighbouring crop? How far do you need to stay from water? How far you need to stay away from the public, and things like that. So we've got our drift down to 15 meters. It's equivalent to a horizontal boom sprayer in terms of the measurement of that drift distance. This is a 120 kilo drone flying at 3-4 meters a second, around 3-4 meters above the crop. So it's fundamentally different to a boom sprayer or traditional machinery. So for us, we're going to be this extra tool in the box where we could be called on. You may be planting, I don't know, a potato crop, and early in the process you can't get on the field because it's just so wet. You're going to cause more damage. We're trying to solve that problem where the grower doesn't have to choose between compacting and damaging all the soil and damaging all the crop by traditional machinery, or just leaving the slugs to have at it and eat all the crop, and then when it's dried up, then go and retrospectively sort of bait the slugs. We want to sort of fill that gap for growers and be this sort of complementary tool in the box. And moving into other products like glyphosate, initially we want to be targeting invasive species like bracken and perennial weeds. That would be more of an amenity use, but it would be on the edge of maybe sheep farmers and growers in Scotland and Wales and things like that, in more tricky hilly terrain where there is no alternative products to combat bracken and the issues that come with it, like tick transfer and stuff like that. But then moving into agriculture, there's a big issue with blackgrass in wheat. I was speaking to a farmer the other day, and he drove 28 kilometres in a massive, I can't even remember how heavy the self-propelled sprayer was, and he spent 9 hours driving 28 kilometres through all the tram lines just to treat maybe around just under a hectare of total blackgrass dotted throughout his whole sort of wheat and barley area. We'd have done that in 20 minutes, and we'd have used no fuel. I mean, what are the fuel costs? What's the compaction cost? When your roots are going to be not as deep. I dread to think what the miles per gallon is.
It's interesting. I immediately thought, when you thought blackgrass, about spot spraying blackgrass, and how could that potentially, another application for drones which is discussed is around aerial analysis of crops in particular.
Yeah.
How could, in that situation, could there be a situation where you could potentially use a drone to scan the crops for patches of blackgrass and then produce a map which you could then give to a spray drone to be able to spot spray out particular problem areas?
Yeah, so I mean, just to be clear, SEAD Artists, for example, isn't the Alex and Andy show. There are other members in this. So, for instance, if you think of the cycle of what you've talked about there from a data flow perspective, one of the issues that farmers have had in the past is somebody's come along with a drone and said, there you go, here's some data on a USB stick. What do you want to do with it? So there's obviously a lot more maturity in the industry now, which is very much, as you said, data driven. So SEAD Artists also has, operators that potentially can do, hyperspectral, multispectral data. We're developing, as part of a project with the Co-op Foundation, a mechanism where we can develop a drone that can harvest crops, or in this case, harvest typha. Potentially, we're looking at, for the next phase of our plaudiculture exploration fund, developing a system whereby we can have hyperspectral detection of sphagnum moss. Then can we develop a drone that can actually transplant sphagnum from one pool or one pond to another? So it's just saying drones have lots of different capabilities. How do you, if you're a farmer or an agronomist, where do you go? What's your route to market? Do you try and reach out to 30 to 40 different companies trying to put it all together yourself? Or do you work with a solutions integrator such as SEAD Artists and say, we need this capability. What technological advancements do you have? And now that you can fly beyond visual line of sight, you can spray and seed as well as the data analysis. Then you've pretty much got a full end-to-end capability from data, but also the right tools for the right jobs, rather than you having to go and do it all yourself. So that's the bit I'm trying to make, which is more, it's the data is important, but it's what are the tools, who are the organisations we talk to, and do you really want farmers and agronomists to have that pain, or do we just say, look, hence, we're not a corporation, we can then bring in other participants, other companies that can do certain parts.
Fascinating. So, Alex, in that situation, if you're a farmer, let's take a farmer in this instance, that really feels there's a role for drones to play on their farm, how would you approach that, working with a farmer to be able to deploy drones in a particular application that they feel they need?
It's like any traditional approach. It's requirements. What is it you're actually trying to achieve? What is the effect you want? Is the drone really the right product? Or is it very much we're looking to maintain and control a particular crop, a particular aspect of our agronomy system? Is it something that the agronomist has said to you, you need to work on this aspect? So there's a degree of needs analysis. Is the right tool for the right job? As Andy will say, it's not replacing a boom sprayer. It might be a case of there is a need for a drone to do a particular piece of work. We're not sure what that looks like. We don't even know what's out there. For example, a lot of areas right now are looking at carbon emissions, carbon validation, net zero, and so on. How do you measure that from things like GHG emissions, putting it back into sustainable farming incentives? Well, there are drones now there that can actually do independent verification of the efflux of gas that actually are potentially over your land. Are you even aware of that, or are you having to get a current auditor to do that? So it's actually a conversation. This is the art of the possible. You may have a budget, a particular focus. We don't want to boil the ocean. So what is it targeted that we can offer you now versus have a think about this in the future? So it's very much that needs analysis piece, because they may already have a very good idea of what they want to do, or they might say, we're not entirely sure. Just tell us what's the state of the art, and then we can determine what we need moving forwards with maybe their existing team of agronomists and other farmhands and other cooperatives that they're working alongside.
Fantastic. I mean, this is really exciting, and I think the BVLOS and the aerial application, in the discussions I've had with people, there's been two areas that people always come back to. So, I mean, the work that you've done in terms of trying to unpick that, and as you said, Andy, this is you haven't got huge venture capital money behind you. You're trying to do this, to go out and do this, to make it happen, to be able to grow your business as you are. Yeah. So, I mean, with those kind of innovations and some of the conceptual analysis you just gave there, Alex, I mean, where do you see, and how does SEAD artists see drone use looking in agriculture in 5-10 years' time?
From a larger farm perspective, I'm going to answer this in two parts. The first part around widespread technology adoption in the next 5 to 10 years is, what's the return on the investment for the farmer? Potentially, if I said 10%, is that really going to change the needle? Is it going to change the way they farm? Or is it, no, we need a game-changing efficiency and effectiveness of using drones? So you can potentially have someone like, we'll contract Andy to do it in the first instance, i.e. it's a service provision for a particular farmer. Or it could be, do we share the costs of someone like Andy or a technology solution between 4 or 5 farms? Or at some point, the usual cliche of teach a man a fish or give him a fish, do we want to learn to use drones ourselves? So do we want a certain capability that we can do in-house, and then we outsource the bits we're a little bit more specialist? So that's the kind of thing from a drone perspective. There'll be things that might be more affordable that the farmers themselves want to own, and then other parts they'll contract in specialist services. But then the second part, which we alluded to a little bit, if we want to have an to facilitate beyond visual line of sight, we need an infrastructure in place, which essentially tells the Civil Aviation Authority, the CAA, that we have a good awareness of what else is flying in our vicinity. So we've developed 2 custom-built solutions. One is a static piece of infrastructure that goes on farmstead farmhouses with comms and power, which gives a local picture of what's in the sky. But also, when Andy is operating, he has a tactical device that he can take with him that gives him a local picture where he's operating as well. Drones are great for farming, but also other people would like to use drones as well. But they need an infrastructure upon which to base their safety on. So imagine we're flying up to 50 feet. Somebody wants to fly 100 or 200 feet. They need to make a safety argument that they can do that. Well, if there is already an infrastructure in place which is owned by farmers, they could potentially use that, and it provides a potential revenue stream for farmers because they are the custodians of that safety-related data. There's also secondary markets here, not just the use of the drone, but it's also the supporting safety data that can be used by others. So what I'm trying to say is the drone technology is one part, the exploitation of the data is a secondary part as well, which a lot of people haven't even thought about yet. But I think from where we're going with this from a farm community, it's like having, for example, developing a new forest and having a corridor in the middle of it that's not planted so you can fly drones safely. So essentially you're creating low-level airways in the sky, but they've been naturally developed, supported by the farming community as well.
Fascinating. I had never thought of creating the infrastructure and that being a potential income opportunity for farmers. I mean, that model as well, Alex, is established with RTK satellite networks with farmers.
It is. It's like a toll road essentially in the sky, and this is well known in the aviation industry. It's called a UTM, uncrewed traffic management. You don't pay for the airspace, but you do pay for services to enable you to fly safely. But these guys need data to be able to provide those services to other drone operators. So, assuming it doesn't disturb farmyards and we do some noise studies, why could you not facilitate medical drone deliveries, package deliveries, other use cases that drones can do, and you benefit from that as a wider agricultural farming community? Again, it's not as far in the future as you think, because we're already developing the technology and the hardware to go with Andy's capabilities. But again, it's more of a multi-part solution.
Yeah, from a purely sort of application perspective, drones applying pesticides or granular material, seeds, all those sorts of things, we see, and we will be making sure that drones are a major sort of part of that ecosystem, that widespread commercial use of drones is taking place in the UK. We're going to drive that forward. We're working with all the regulators. We're submitting all the applications now. We're working on data to support our own applications for our own pesticide products. We're going to be registering, white label mirror products with drone listed on the label as the application method, which compartmentalizes us away from your traditional product, so that if there's any issues or concerns from the HSE, we can close down the drone element immediately, and business will continue as usual with traditional machinery. But I suppose it's a bit of a call to action, really. We need people. You guys are the experts, not us. We might be the experts in getting the data and getting the application methods through and sorted, but we don't know what you need, what growers need, when they need it, what products are working great for them, what cycles are they on, all those sorts of things. We need that information, and we need to work backwards. If you want a product applying on your crop, I need to know today, and I can start the process, and we will get it through at some point. But we need people to contact us and tell us what they need.
Brilliant. If you're watching this and you want to find out more, you can speak to the Agri-TechE team and they can connect you directly. Alex, I believe there's another way that people can find out more. I believe you're doing an event with Agri-TechE. Could you share a few more details of that, please?
That's right, yes. So this is going to be a live webinar with myself, Andy, and a couple of others as well who've supported from a technological perspective. I believe that's in July, which will be a wider discussion pretty much along these lines around the exploitation, but very much participants to join in and ask us some difficult questions, because I often give difficult questions to others. So it's time for people to query me and Andy on this as well.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us for this month's Member Spotlight. I hope you've enjoyed today. If you want to find out more, then please visit the Agri-TechE website, or if you want to find out more about SEAD in particular, please do visit their website for more information. For anyone watching, I would advise, if you're interested in today's chat, to take a look at the huge back catalogue available on the Agri-TechE website.